I don't know what make or model this kitchen faucet set is. There's nothing wrong with it per se. It functions fine. It doesn't drip. There's really nothing wrong with it. But we have found that using one of this style with the faucet handle, lever handle that projects out, and I installed them rotated so that they're projecting forward like that. That moves the handle 2 or 3 inches forward, and just that little difference makes it so that my wife doesn't have to reach as far, and for whatever reason at her height and her reach, that makes the difference between a backache and no backache. So we're going to replace this faucet, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's in. I might also, I'm going to just keep the camera rolling, and if I get some clips I can include in the video, I'll leave them in. This is my first time using my new GoPro Hero 8 camera, so this is also kind of some experimentation in the process. And there was no light on. I can put the light on. That would have helped. Yeah, I just put the overhead light on so it shows up a little better that way. But you can see how this, from the center line here out to here, is more than 3 inches, it looks like. And so that means it's more than 3 inches. The handle on that new faucet is out here. And just that little bit of difference on reaching repetitively, it saves my wife a lot of backaches. By the way, this faucet is not intended to be mounted the way I'm going to mount it, but it works great that way, and I'll show you what I mean. There's always one that doesn't cooperate. I might have to put a wrench on that. Loosen the gland a little bit. Rags and a thing to capture drips. It's already dripping. That might have it. Well, it looks like there's something wrong with that one. I'm going to have to turn the water main off downstairs. That one's frozen too. You have to go for the water main. Okay, the water pressure's off. It's possible this fixture has been in here for 25 years because it matches the other fixtures in the bathrooms, and this house was built 25 years ago. So it's not surprising that things are a little bit jammed up. Just drying up the drips. Gonna go get my faucet wrench. comes off down here. That's 2 ears broken off. Most trouble that one of these has ever given me. This thing's a real, almost feels like it's cross-threaded. Cut this off, make a little room to work. it's loose, but it still doesn't want to unscrew. The threaded part is a real problem. Well, that was a son of a gun. And now I'll just have to clean this off. So on the installation sheets here, you can see that the escutcheon is oriented parallel with the back of the sink. And the faucet cartridge is oriented parallel with the escutcheon. In my installation, I rotate the faucet housing 90 degrees so that the faucet cartridge is more or less aiming or pointing at the person in front of the sink. And that moves the handle, the control handle, a good 3.5 inches closer to the person who's using it. Down here, I don't know if it comes through well enough, but there's 2 tubes. There's actually 4 tubes that go through the gooseneck down onto the underside of the sink. And one of them just loops back because that's the spray nozzle. And the other 2 are water supply lines, hot and cold. This might be more clear, hopefully. Here's the spray nozzle hose, which goes through the gooseneck down to the underside of the sink and then back up to the faucet cartridge. And then below the escutcheon, underside of the sink, you have two water supply hoses that go to the hot water supply valve and the cold water supply valve. As this threaded nipple extends to the underside of the sink, there's a rubber seal, a washer, and a threaded ring that has 3 screws in it. So when you tighten the ring, you then tighten the 3 screws evenly until the escutcheon and the faucet are firmly tightened and everything's flat on the top side of the sink. Then this, they call it a putty plate underneath the escutcheon. And I think normally you might use plumber's putty on that, but I applied 100% silicone caulk. I think that's gonna provide a good seal, and it's gonna last a long time. And I know that silicone caulk, when it sets up, will act almost as an adhesive to keep this thing from rotating. And then between the faucet body and the top of the escutcheon, there's also a rubber seal there. So hopefully this clarifies how the faucet's intended to be installed, along with the underside view and the top side view. So here's a shot of what the installation looks like from the bottom of the sink. All the hoses come through this one nipple. Got a blue cold, a red hot, and this is the spray nozzle. And I did have to replace that one valve there, which was stuck. Well, I got so annoyed with the faucet removal process that I failed to record the faucet installation. But this wasn't intended to be a how-to video. My purpose was to show you an alternative way to install one of these faucets as a means to alleviate back, neck, and shoulder pain for a shorter person who has to reach too much to operate the faucet knobs. I also just brought you along so you could see what you might run into if you decide to do this job yourself. So I can give you a little bit of a description here of the installation. As you can see, this is the faucet cartridge. And this is the escutcheon plate, and under that, between the escutcheon plate and the top of the sink, is the putty plate. And the escutcheon plate is so long, or of such a length, that it covers all 3 holes that were in the top of the sink for the faucet. And then I added also a sink hole blank here to cover the old spray nozzle hole. Hopefully this, combined with the under sink shot that I show, and combined with the explanation of the diagrams on the installation papers that came with it, hopefully that'll give you a better understanding of how this installation looks. A much bigger struggle than I anticipated, but now we have this nice gooseneck faucet. But the only reason we replaced it was because the knob faucet handles were over here and over here, and now it's out here, which is actually 3 3.5 inches closer to you as you're standing in front of the sink. So there's the cold, you flip it over, and there's the hot, and off. And you'll see that there's a little indicator here, red on this side, blue on this side. I actually had to turn it around because this way is hot and this way is cold. It comes in a different configuration when it comes out of the box because this is intended to be over here. So you're pushing it forward and back to adjust the temperature rather than swinging it side to side. And there's a hose coming out of here with a blue stripe and one coming out with a red stripe, and you actually have to reverse them. So you hook the red to the cold valve and the blue to the hot valve in order for this to function properly out in this configuration. I guess if it were oriented over here, then when pushing it back would be hot and pulling it toward you would be cold. But in this case, left is hot and right is cold. And that takes care of that. I also had to find a blank plug for this because that's where the old spray nozzle was, and so I just plugged that hole, and the spray nozzle now on this is here. This is an American Standard Fairbury faucet, in case you were interested. But so that's that. And the only reason we replaced that old one, which was working perfectly, is to bring this handle 3.5 inches closer to the front of the sink, so my wife wouldn't have to reach quite as far. And it actually makes a difference. We had this in our last house, and it actually makes a difference. And it's the difference between back pain and no back pain for her. So that's that. I hope you found this helpful.